Latina Voices is proudly sponsored by Goya Foods. When it's Goya, it's got to be good.
This is Latina Voices Smart Talk, and today we look at two standout women, actress, activist, and entrepreneur Eva Longoria, and all the way from Wall Street, another amazing lady, author, financial guru, and gospel singer CARLA HARRIS. A show about universal topics from a Latina perspective.
Latina Voices Smart Talk.
Hello again, I'm Minerva Perez, executive producer of Latina Voices with Texas super lawyer Sofia Adrogué.
And I'm co-producer and co-host. We seek to educate, inspire, and empower.
And we like to say that we are a show about universal topics from a Latina perspective. And as always, we like to engage in smart talk.
Smart talk only, that's all we do.
And I want to talk about Diane Keaton.
Yes.
I got to meet her the other day. She looked stunning. This is a woman who is up in age. Is all I will say. I've been watching her since I was a kid. Annie Hall, you name it. And So It Goes, and all these wonderful movies that she's made. And I was just so impressed with her grace and her class and her fashion sense. You know, she wears hats all the time.
Yes.
And
Was she wearing a hat?
She was wearing a hat.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. And she just looked amazing. And I told her, because I've always wanted to tell her this, that the reason I wear hats is because of her.
She probably was inordinately flattered.
She was impressed.
Yes.
We didn't have much time together.
Yes.
But she was speaking at the Brilliant series.
Yes, Brilliant Lecture Series.
Lecture series, exactly. And she just was amazing to me. And I started reading her book, which she signed. It's called Then Again. And it's really a book about her and her mother. And their relationship was just so special in Southern California, where she was born, and how she got her start. It's autobiographical about how she got her start in acting, and how her mother really was her support and her biggest fan, obviously. She got her name, Diane Keaton, from her mother's maiden name. Her name is Hall.
Okay.
And I think that's where they got the name for Annie Hall, that classic movie, Annie Hall. Woody Allen, and it's just an amazing mother-daughter type of experience with this book, and how she gives so much credit to her mother for being a thinking woman.
Well,
yeah.
You know, there's a lot of themes about women being inspired by their own mothers. It's a positive thing. Thinking woman, if I could, as you know, we interviewed CARLA HARRIS. What a dynamo! And we talked about her book, and further reflection, Expect to Win. I like the title, Expect to Win. 10 proven strategies for thriving in the workplace. And in rereading, it's the focus on she said she comes up with Carla's pearls. And the one she thought was most relevant is the authentic self, and always bringing that to the table, which made we talked about it, and it made me think of when you were referencing Diane Keaton, just ensuring that you're comfortable in your own skin. And when you were referencing the up in age, it reminds me of interviewing Gloria Steinem, who soon thereafter turned 80, and talk about a powerhouse and influential woman comfortable in her own skin. Very quickly on this Expect to Win, what I like about it is it's raw. There's a chapter on managing mistakes. It's not if you were to make a mistake, it's assuming you're going to. Manage the mistakes. Another very declarative statement, but indicative of the book, is there will be bad days. But the beauty of things like Expect to Win or Then Again, it just tells you how complicated things are, but you can thrive, survive and thrive.
I loved her thinking and concepts in that book, but she was so open about everything, and the mistakes she's made, and what she learned from them, and how other women can take these mistakes and do something with it.
There's no doubt. If you may recall, it was only when she was about to make managing director, which is at Morgan Stanley, really, that you've made it. It's like a partner at a law firm, that she was she was asked to sing at a company party, not in her own sections, and she vacillated because she had this gift that she had not previously. She had compartmentalized her work and her love of singing. But I mean, obviously, if you can make it to Carnegie Hall, I think your voice is okay.
And have a couple of albums under her belt. Exactly.
Absolutely.
She was wonderful. And we are going to be talking more about Carla Harris, but we're also going to be talking about EVA Longoria, who has made such strides. A kid from the barrios of Corpus Christi. Pretty amazing lady. We're going to be talking about all of this when we return with more of Latina Voices, EVA Longoria.
Welcome back to Latina Voices Smart Talk. Superstar EVA Longoria was in Houston to promote education and her educational foundation.
The original Desperate Housewife took time to tell us about her journey from the barrios of Corpus Christi, Texas, all the way to Hollywood, and of course about her aspirations for younger people coming behind.
It was a long journey, and after I graduated college, I felt a little more secure to go and try my hand at it, because I knew I had my degree to fall back on, and it was a very long, well-documented journey. Well, I think there's a lot of change that I would like to see, and I knew that there's two ways you can make change: privately through foundations, which is the work I do with my foundation, and then public policy through the proper channels of our government. And so you need both sides to create change, and that's why you need to do both. Well, I think we need it. It's not only a moral imperative, it's an economic imperative for the country. Well, I think immigration's one policy that needs to change. I'm really focused on education policy and education reform, and making sure that our community, and specifically Latino community, has the opportunities and the infrastructure to continue to get their education and a higher education, and that's really the only way for economic mobility of our community.
And what do you tell the girls from your barrio, from where you came, on how to get out?
Education. Education. That's my message in my foundation. That's the work that we do, and I think it's really important that they all understand that college is an option for everybody.
And where do you go from here?
I'm going to London in an hour.
And she truly is a superstar. But to see this woman, who is probably a size 0,
Yes.
a little tiny thing. She's a very powerful voice, not only for education, but for, she's getting very involved in politics, immigration, especially the immigration issue. She talks a little bit about that. But she is very much on the ball, and is going beyond Hollywood to get things done, especially for young people.
Well, she obviously utilized her success as a platform, and now to make a difference and stand for something beyond, and more than just being a Hollywood star.
Well, you know, the Obama administration is using her as a tool on one of the subcommittees on education, and she's doing a phenomenal job, is what I have read, obviously. And she's also been very involved with Hollywood, and recently she was presenting the Golden Globe nominations, actually the SAG Awards. And it's just so good to see a Latina on the podium, you know, with big stars talking about, you know, the elite of Hollywood and all the royalty of Hollywood. And she's
that's
one
your
of
previous venue. You're LA, so you know all.
I know a little bit about that place, and it's a wonderful place, especially for young people like her. I mean, she came along and just, you know, belted them with the Desperate Housewives role that she played, and continues to play. It's in syndication. You see it every now and then. So obviously, she's made a real difference in the community, in her community of Corpus Christi and Texas. She comes back to Texas a lot. Her family's still in Corpus Christi, so she's obviously doing some good things for everyone.
Trailblazer.
It's good, very much a trailblazer. And we return to Latina Voices Smart Talk with a look at a woman who is a Wall Street leader and who has a voice from heaven.
Absolutely.
Carla Harris, next.
Carla Harris is a 25-year veteran of Wall Street, a managing director at Morgan Stanley, and chair of the National Women's Business Council, appointed by President Obama.
She's also an author of the book Expect to Win, with pearls about thriving in the workplace. She sat down with us to explain her strategies for survival and success and other exceptional talents.
So often people think that if I'm smart and I work hard, I have the two components in order to be successful. But it's so much more than that. You can't just have that. You need to understand the nuances, like the perceptions are important and they are the co-pilot to reality. So if you're perceived a certain way, your reality of how smart you are and how hard you work may not even matter if the perception is off. So you need to understand that. You need to understand that you have to invest in relationships, that you can't do it alone. So you can't be just smart, work in a silo, and really get the work done. I have so many people who say, I'll let my work speak for me, but your work doesn't talk. Yeah. It can't be the only thing that's speaking. Your relationships need to speak on your behalf, which means you need to speak to the people
and as
that
you
will
said,
allow
carry
you to
the
build
papers for you, the
Absolutely.
sponsoring.
You don't always have access to the room. So you need a sponsor that will carry your paper into the room, that will spend his or her currency on you so that you can get the promotion, you can get the great opportunity, you can get the great bonus. Because it's subjective. And the more senior you get, the more the outcomes on your career will be governed by somebody's decision, which will be governed by somebody's judgment, which will be influenced by your relationship.
Well, and as you said in the book, which this was made, it makes it hard, and life lessons for our children, it's not as if you have a lot of time. It's that 90-day rule. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Most people walk into an organization thinking, oh, I have 1 year until my next evaluation. So I have a lot of time to learn, to get up to speed, and to put some points on the board. But it is natural for anybody to draw a conclusion about someone in about a quarter, in about 90 days. So you should walk into that new opportunity thinking, what, quote, points can I put on the board? And points on the board is either what can I accomplish or how can I show them that I was a good hire? How can I demonstrate that I learned quickly, that I have learned something? How can I demonstrate that they made a good decision to bring me on? And you should think about that in those first 90 days. What can I do? And walk into that opportunity aiming to do that in 90 days, because after then, people will start, well, I think she's okay. Oh, yeah, maybe he was, well, I got to watch that, or I'm not so sure. And then you will have lost that opportunity.
And that leads me to your point about authenticity.
Yes.
Is that what gets you there?
I think being your authentic self gives you the ability to be a powerful leader in the marketplace, because it's a competitive advantage. Nobody can be you the way that you can be you. And if you bring your best self to the table, it's not something that anybody else can replicate. Sure, they can try to have your agility with financial instruments, or they can try to have your speaking ability, but the way you deliver it, how you say it, the way you interpret numbers, the way you explain the numbers, only you can do that in the way that you can do that. So your edge is being the best you that you can be. If you're trying to spend time being someone that you're not, you will create a competitive disadvantage for yourself.
And utilizing your voice, as you said.
Absolutely.
You have to ensure.
Yes.
I mean, I like the chapter that said, you know what, you have to speak. Query, even if you're reiterating something, go ahead and say it so people, it's memorable that you have made a statement.
Yeah, I can't be more blunt than to say that if you never say anything in a meeting, there's a 50-50 chance that someone thinks you're smart and a 50-50 chance that they think you're stupid. And you can't take those chances, although you can't make those odds with your career. So when people hear your voice, then they have an opportunity to hear that you're smart. They have an opportunity to hear that you are a contributor.
And obviously your voice has been heard. I mean, here you are, the most powerful black executive in corporate America. Here you are, according to Black Enterprise magazine, top 75 African Americans on Wall Street, top 75 most powerful women in business. But I want to know the authentic you. How did you get to these places? Where did you come from, Carla Harris?
Yes, where did I come from? I was actually born in Port Arthur, Texas, which not very many people know, because I claim Jacksonville, Florida as home, because that's where most of my growing up life was, in elementary school, junior high, and high school. And I'd say that I came from pretty humble beginnings, lower middle class family, a family that was a no-nonsense family. My mother and father did not allow me to use any excuses for not doing well. And they always gave me the feeling learned that I was supposed to do well, that there wasn't anything special in making an A. That's what you're supposed to do. And that's one of the things that I try to communicate to people that I come in contact with, is that I'm not anything special. There's not you know, some magic potion that makes Carla Harris. I am you. And so and if I did it, therefore you can do it.
And let me say, before we talk about the National Women's Business Council, which congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
What I thought was great, one of the chapters in the book they're very no-nonsense guidelines. It's the simple things like calendar. It's the simple things like, okay, determine you're going to, for 2 hours, focus on the project, or 2 hours focused on your emails.
Yes.
And each day you wake up and say, okay, what is going to get accomplished today? And it sounds trivial, but they're action items, and I think they allow you to move forward.
Absolutely, and I am a big action person. At the core, I am an executor. And you're absolutely right, Sophia. If you can get your arms around it and put it on a calendar or put it on a piece of paper, then it looks manageable. And so often, especially as women, we get overwhelmed with all of the different definitions of who we are. Yes, I'm a woman. Yes, I'm an individual, but I'm also a mother. I'm also a wife. I'm also a professional. I'm also a philanthropist. I'm all of these different things. And at any one point in time, all of these agendas can collide. And if you are processing all of that in your head, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and sometimes paralyzed.
I call it compartmentalizing, or no, we cannot make it.
Absolutely. And if you can put it all down on a piece of paper and focus, and that's what calendarizing allows you to do. You say, okay, for 1 hour, I'm just going to do emails for 1 hour. And then I'll play a game with myself. How many emails can I do in an hour?
Oh, I've never played that game.
Yeah.
Okay, Minerva, let's
Yeah, right. But you have, accomplished so much. And recently, President Obama tapped your shoulder and asked you to be on the National Women's Business Council.
And share it.
And chairing it, exactly,
Yes.
Leading it. What was that like?
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's an awesome honor because I think the National Women's Business Council plays an important role in our country, and that is really to be the voice for women entrepreneurs and to speak to the White House, to Congress, and to the SBA around issues as they relate to women entrepreneurs. And there are so many. And when I first looked at the role, I thought to myself, wow, there's so many different directions we can go in. And so I really wanted to understand what was important to the administration and then really focus on those things where I thought, again, we could put some points on the board in the shortest amount of time, because I have a 3-year appointment, and because I am an executor, I am results oriented, I want to be able to look back after 3 years and say, boy, we really made a difference because we spoke about that, or we inspired action around these things. So the first thing I did is to say, if you think about the National Women's Business Council, how do I want people to think about it? And the way that I wanted people to think about it was around 4 pillars that we're going to be talking about and focusing on: access to capital. Yes. We're going to be talking about and focusing on access to markets. It could be domestic markets, international markets, government markets, because there's a lot of money that the government spends in this country every year with small businesses. How can we make sure that women entrepreneurs get greater access to that? Access to jobs, because I really want to focus on scale, because so often when we focus on entrepreneurs, we focus on entrepreneurial operations that have 1 or 2 employees, but how can we create scale, because that's where you really get the multiplier effect around job creation. And why is it so important just to talk about the woman entrepreneur as opposed to a woman-led company? Because if a woman entrepreneur is successful and she raises equity, she will dilute herself. So she may no longer be a 51% owner, she may be a 39% owner, but why is that less important for us to talk about? We should be talking about the women-led companies as well as the women-owned companies. And then finally to look at the data, because obviously the data informs the decisions, it informs what direction you should go into, and the data that we're all talking about is stale data. So I really want to make sure that we're focused on trying to create the right data set so that we can all make informed and intelligent decisions around entrepreneurship and women's entrepreneurship in particular.
I know you know all the statistics and studies that show that once women are at the helm, I mean, the reality is it can be a win-win.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's empowerment and yes, access to capital, but the end result is going to be positive for men and women. It's going to be positive for the country.
That's absolutely right. Because if you look at when women have gotten their shot, it's been around chaotic times. I mean, just look at the women who have risen
and they've delivered.
And they've delivered. And I'm hard pressed to find examples where they haven't delivered. So I'm very, very bullish about this opportunity, the environment that we're in, the market environment we're in, and the environment for women as leaders.
You have gone from banknotes to musical notes all your life, obviously.
Yes.
Tell me what's important about your singing and the power of singing the way you do.
The most important thing about my singing is the ability to communicate hope. I sing gospel music, and gospel music is all about hope. It's all about faith. It's all about knowing that your flank is always covered because He's always got you. And so that's one of the reasons I love singing gospel music, is to be able to communicate that message.
And you've been singing all your life?
I've been singing since I was 9. Yes. Yeah, that's all my life.
What a dynamo. The venue was the Women's Resources Luncheon, where you have emceed for years, and we had the luxury of meeting when I was one of the keynote speakers.
About 7 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had heard about Carla Harris, actually first through my husband. He was at Morgan Stanley at the time, and sadly, as we've talked on many occasions, there's not that many women that reach that level, at that helm. And she's aberrational from that perspective, and Sten actually was in a presentation with her for a major client, and Sten said, Sophia, you need to meet her.
A kid from Port Arthur, Texas, born in Port Arthur, and now lives elsewhere, but she's really a Texas girl with a lot of grit. We love that word.
Absolutely.
And has done amazing things and continues to. And on top of that, she's a gospel singer. She's very grounded, I think, and very down to earth, even though she's got all these talents, and obviously a very intelligent woman, obviously author, and everything she's done on Wall Street and continues to do, and continues to pave the way for other women behind her.
And also, won't surprising, went to Harvard Business School, and you know, she's impressive, the real deal.
And we had her on Latina Voices.
Absolutely.
So we thank her for that, and we'll be back with more. Thank you for being with us on this edition of Latina Voices Smart Talk.
Until next time, stay smart.
Latina Voices is proudly sponsored by Goya Foods. When it's Goya, it's got to be good.